Well, good morning, people. Coming to you from the bunker again. It is Friday, December 31st. That would be New Year's Eve, wouldn't it? Yep, 2021. I'm not going to commemorate New Year's in a way that is celebratory, but I don't want to say look back. We already know what happened, but, you know, a look forward in a way that is not predictive, okay? And I want to kind of enmesh this with the thing that I've talked about and I've practiced, and I think it's it's become my perspective on how to approach certain things. And then as you're going through it, there are touchstones that go along with this. I call it the metaphor of the marathon. I ran marathons for many years. I coached marathon training to basically for middle school kids all the way up to adults. And my oldest runner in any group was in his late 60s. And so over the years, the thing first, I started running marathons on my own with my dog, and it was a very solo process or evolution. So then, when I started coaching, obviously, I had to talk about it and frame it, and coach people on and encourage them and give them pointers, tips, techniques. And I concluded with a lot of my fellow marathon runners that the mental process of running a marathon is much more important than the physical. Obviously, you need to be in good shape, or as in best shape that you can be in. It's no walk in the park, literally. You can walk it, but to run a marathon is you have to train for it, and you have to sort of train mentally more than anything else. So the metaphor of the marathon is the mental approach to that race. And, not, there's other lengths, of races, everything from a 5K to a, ultra marathon. But the marathon is special, 26.2 miles. It doesn't change. And I always said that the race never gets any easier, and I did a lot of them. And so how do you approach it? Okay. So the connection I want to make is on New Year's Eve, going into 2022. And again, I don't want to make predictions, but I think those who are charting the progress of where we're at don't see a real rosy picture ahead, okay? Lots of icebergs. And no matter how big our ship is, if we hit them, we're going down, or we're going to take some damage, right? So how do you approach and navigate through the ice flows, if you will? Having some coffee here. It's early morning and it's snowy and I'm cold. Got a joint here too, so I might do a little wake and bake with you. But kick back. These talks are intended to sort of take a pause, right? And however you like to take a pause. Coffee, a joint, tea, cigarette, I don't know, whatever. Whatever your vice is, go to it. So, specifically, I started thinking about this because even if I trained best, or my runners trained at their best, they're at their peak level of, physical prowess or whatever, every time you get to the start line of a marathon, there's a lot of emotion to it. In some cases, you've trained for months and months and months. And, it's finally arrived, the day of, and it's usually early in the morning and you're cold, and there's a lot of anticipation, how is this going to, there's a lot of unknowns to it all, right? Usually that's pretty celebratory. There's a lot of enthusiasm, there's a lot of excitement. Yeah, there's a lot of that. And sometimes, though, I've approached start lines where none of that is happening. And there's a lot of trepidation, and you kind of know in the back of your mind you didn't train as hard or as well as you could have, and you kind of came up short, but here you are. and you got this 26 miles, laid out in front of you. And you just know, without a doubt, it's going to suck. In fact, I've told myself that. I've arrived at start lines where I didn't eat the night before very well, if at all, in some cases. In many cases, there's a lot of sleeplessness that goes on the night before, either from excitement or, worrying if you're traveling, especially. Did I pack everything, and do I have everything? And shit, I forgot my shoes on one occasion. But once you're there, you kind of know how it's going to go. Because internally, you got to be truthful to yourself and go, okay, how did my training go this time? Not so well, whatever. You might be injured slightly. There's a lot of, that going on. But my point is, when you start the race, or when you launch yourself into it, and you say, okay, here it is, I'm going to accept whatever comes, good, bad, or indifferent, and you kind of just know how it's going to go, but you do it anyway, and you complete the race. I can proudly say, one of my major accomplishments is not just, running marathons, but I never had a DNF next to my name on any race, from 5K to marathons, whatever. I always finished them. And, okay, for what it's worth, I got through it. The stages of getting through it are interesting. It's the connection is, okay, I feel that even though the last couple of years have been absolutely off the charts weird, not pleasant for anybody, I don't think, whether you've normalized it or, you've kind of taken a very skeptical approach and you've really, critically thought about, like, what's really going on here? It hasn't been a pleasant process for anybody unless you're, a millionaire or a billionaire. For most of us, I think, just in, having my ear to the ground, having discussions with friends and, looking forward to the next year, extrapolating from this year and the previous one, 2022, many feel is when the shit is really going to hit the fan. Like, we're not through this, man. And it's starting to look like we're entering a phase where, economic collapse, okay, we've been talking about it for a while. Now mandating not just mask wearing, but, vaccinations in public places. And now they're talking about, traveling across state lines, airlines. So these conversations are out there. They don't seem to be going away. New variants, these astronomical numbers that are hitting us every day, truthful or not, they're coming at us. Okay. In a way, many people feel like we're being groomed for all this. Like it's like, why all these dystopian movies all of a sudden? Why all this chatter? Okay, so if that's in the air, and we know kinda what's ahead of us, it's like showing up at the start line and going, this is gonna really suck, okay? But running it anyway. And then you just do it. And then how do you do it? Well, I'll start with this because everybody kind of knows about this term, this concept of the wall, right? If you read, the book, Born to Run, which I highly recommend, even if you're not a runner, okay? It's a great book on the evolution of humans, human beings, but also why we run, okay? And how that started, going all the way back. This whole notion of persistence hunting, right? Where human beings, we are the animal that can run the longest distance of any animal. I didn't know that before I read the book. Not the fastest, okay? We're not going to run down cheetahs, but we can run down, like on the African savannas, can run down a lot of game, including antelope and what have you, just through persistence, learning tracking techniques and just going forward. You look to a tribe like in northern Mexico, like the Tarahumara Indian, who lives in the Barranca Canyon for centuries and centuries, and that is their mode of transportation, is to run through the canyon, which is vast, right? And they haven't changed their lifestyle for thousands of years, apparently. So part of that book incorporates the Tarahumara Indians and pits them against the elite ultra runners of that time. I forget when the book came out, probably about 15, 20 years ago. But there's this concept of the wall for most of us, unless we're, just freakish athletes. The human body is pretty much designed and has evolved to run about 18, 19, 20 miles, tops, right? And then you hit the wall. And it's an interesting thing. If you look at hitting the wall at about mile 20, then what you got left in that race is 6.2 miles, which is a 10K. So that last 10K, I always approached it and kind of trained people that, it's coming, you're going to hit it at some point, okay? And then, how do you handle that point? And even before you get to that wall, or maybe it is at the wall, there's always a point. At least this is true with me. You have different experiences, love to hear what they are, but there's always a point in that race where you almost feel like you can't make it. And if you're really running it, and I know people run marathons or walk marathons or walk marathons or whatever, and they do it at a comfortable pace. Okay, I always pushed it. I was kind of into my time, and then the older I got, the less concerned I was about my time. But I always pushed it to some degree, right? And if you push it, you're going to find that point where you just kind of want to give up. You go, oh, fuck, I'm just not feeling it today, or whatever, right? And it really creeps into your thought process, and you go, huh. And then you start wrestling with that mental affliction, I don't know, where you want to give up, but you can't give up. You won't give up. There's some struggle going on about giving up, okay? And like I said, I never DNF'd, so I always overcame that, okay? And it's fascinating how many of my young runners, especially, or whatever, they did the same thing. For some reason, there seems to be, no matter what your age and experience level, there's something in us, that wants to survive and push on. And if we can do that mentally, we can run the race, we can finish it. And so I guess with that thought in approaching 2022, that would be my coaching strategy, okay, for anybody thinking of giving up or giving in, or I can't do this, or I can't take anymore, or this is too fucking weird. That's the race, okay? And I think it's really, really normal from what I've seen to get to that point in the race. And really, really wrestle with yourself and with others, maybe. And it is the with others that makes a huge difference. Most marathons, and again, I kind of stopped competitive running or running those long races about 5 years ago. Just a series of injuries just added up, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm done. I think about going back into running. But regardless of that, okay, when I left marathon running, most marathons that I frequented had a rule of no earbuds, right? One of the reasons you run a marathon with sometimes hundreds, thousands of people, depending on, how big it is because there's so many people. And you meet them along the course. You run with them. And I always told my runners when I was coaching them, don't run any faster than you can have a conversation. That's your pace. If you push it, you're pushing your pace, you might run out of gas. It's not smart. So at least it's some part of the race, majority of the race. Now I know towards the end, that last 6.2, you're probably not going to be very communicative, right? But in the earlier parts of the race, you want to talk to your fellow runners. Kind of keeps you going. You get to meet people. It's one of the reasons we do it in the first place, is to get out there amongst the people, even on the, bigger marathons, New York, LA, whatever. People line the streets of the city. They come out for it, man. It's a party. And you want to hear that. You don't want to have your earbuds in and be, insulated. So speaking with people can get you through, especially at those points where you're feeling weak or you want to give up or whatever ailments are, happening with your body or with your mind, right? having that camaraderie is something that can really, really help in getting you through it. Again, this is a metaphor, right? How to get through it, how to keep going, how to keep putting one foot in front of the other, how to not give up, how to complete the race. Having the confidence to complete the race, even at your weakest moments. Connect with others. Take off the earbuds, which is another metaphor, right? Stop being isolated in your own head. Get out of your head. Talk to others. Make those connections. Stay confident and optimistic through the worst of it. Because when you hit that wall, it's going to hurt like hell. And you really feel like, your feet, your legs, whatever, is like, they feel like lead. Like, you almost become disassociated. And I tell people that have taken psychedelics, whatever, and I've done my fair share, there's nothing more powerful than the runner's high. There's no psychedelic that I've ever taken that compares. They're different. It is a hallucinatory experience, but it's very different. And it comes from those natural endorphins and whatever else is just, coming from a place in your body that enables us to push on. And they're very powerful, these endorphins, and whatever else is within us. It's all within us, right? That's the fuel. And so these natural endorphins kick in, and if your mental process starts kicking in along with it, it becomes almost a spiritual experience. You take it on faith that you're going to finish this thing. And, there are many instances where I've seen where people actually drag themselves across the finish line. Or this strange phenomenon happens where you get to the finish line and then you collapse, It's like you've run the race. You got there, even though you really didn't have anything in you. The tank was empty a long time before you crossed that finish line, but you did it anyway. And then you managed to cross before you collapsed. And that's the famous story of Pheidippides, right? Ancient Greece. The reason it's called the marathon. Ran from Marathon to Athens to proclaim victory, Nike. Whether true or not, it's a great story, but I've seen it happen in actuality where people do collapse a lot after the marathon. Strange, but they do finish. How'd they do that? There's a lot more I can talk about, but I just want to instill this perspective, this thought, this idea, this metaphor of the marathon, which kind of stands as one of the events that human beings have created as a barometer of our level of endurance, what we can achieve. And then you can, go from there and push it beyond, which I really, hats off to the ultra marathoners. I've done a couple, and not at the level of the toughest races in the world, which I've witnessed, like Badwater 146 and Death Valley and other races like that around the world now that people have really, really pushed the boundaries of human endurance. But the marathon itself is kind of special because of its history and its lore. And I think we because they're big events now, a lot of people are experiencing training for one as sort of a lifetime accomplishment to finish one. And I think that's nothing to sneeze at, man. If you've never run a marathon, yeah, try it sometime, But we're in a marathon. This is a marathon. It's been going on for 2 years. It's going to take some endurance to get through it. I don't know how much. But if you get to the point where you feel like you're going to give up, just know you're in the race. Take it on faith that you can finish it. And just keep putting one foot in front of the other. But stay connected to the people around you that are running the race with you. Doesn't matter what's in their head. You're in it together. And that's really important to realize. And the strength that you can glean from other people that are in it with you may be the one thing that gets you through it. So that's my little, homily for the morning or whatever. So good morning, Happy New Year. Smoke a joint, whatever the fuck you need. Peace out, people. I'm gonna talk to you later.